Hello everyone, welcome back to Achilles Speaks. Today I wanted to discuss the current state of money in politics because it is a super relevant issue that has a lot of ramifications in politics, and we have seen that just recently in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, where according to the AP, it talks about how spending on that race went over $100 million for just one state Supreme Court seat. And this is the most ever spent on a U.S. court race and double the previous record of 51 million spent in 2023. And tons of money was specifically put in by Elon Musk and also other billionaires like George Soros, but to a lesser extent than Elon Musk. Musk kind of intervened in this race in a lot of different ways. One, he spent a lot of money himself, over $3 million, and then he also had his affiliated PACs and organizations spend about $20 million on the race. He also did uh, some things such as handing out $1 million checks to three Wisconsin voters who signed a petition, and then also giving signers of the petition $100 each. There was a lot of ways in which he was attempting to influence and manipulate the race in Wisconsin by using his mass amounts of wealth. And this type of thing really should not stand in any democratic country because it has devastating effects, which we'll go into later. And money in politics is a major issue. It has been a major issue for a long time, especially after Citizens United, when the issue was really exacerbated by that Supreme Court case ruling. But Musk's interference in this race with his $1 million checks and these $100 for signing petitions is kind of a new low for money in politics. Well, it's a new high in terms of the dollar amount, but it's a new moral low and a low for our democratic system itself. And here's a chart. The source is the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, about billionaire donations to Wisconsin Supreme Court race. And there you see that Elon Musk vastly outspent other individuals. And the top three individuals who spent in this race who were billionaire donations were actually all conservatives. George Soros came in fourth, had spent nothing even in comparison to what Musk did and these other individuals. J.B. Pritzker also spent some money. And it was really ironic because on X, Musk kept on tweeting about Soros' influence and all these like democratic people are being paid when I mean, these are the facts. This is how much was spent. Uh, it was Elon Musk doing it the most, and he was doing it the most explicitly, and he was doing the most interference by far. And so I think there was some projecting going on there from Elon Musk. No one did anything near to what he did. He um, is really trying to use his money to change the outcome of a democratic process and have an outside say over elections and over the choice, the free choice of citizens, which I think is horrendous. And I don't think it should be normalized. It's really a sad state of affairs that this type of thing I feel like has become so normalized. Like, yes, we are hammering on Musk specifically right now, which I think is good and I think we need more of. But from a lot of the mainstream politicians in the past, like where has this energy been? Because our elections have been bought and are at least attempted to be bought for quite a while now, um, and it's really just sad to see where this state of what the state of affairs are, because this is not what the founders of this country intended. This is not what the vast majority of Americans want. If you do a poll, you'll see super majorities of Americans don't agree with this type of outside spending on elections and think that it should be reined in. A large percentage of Americans, majorities of Americans, poll after poll shows that they support overturning Citizens United, which I'll go into more later. And it's not just the Wisconsin Supreme Court race where this type of money is being spent. I mean, if you look at the 2024 elections overall, this is according to the FEC, presidential candidates raised $1.6 billion over the first 21 months of the 2023-2024 campaign cycle. Congressional candidates collected $3.3 billion. Political parties received $2.1 billion. PAC, political action committees, PACs, raised $12.3 billion. That is an insane amount of money. That's just incomprehensible. And it is extremely notable how high the level is for PAC spending, or PAC money raised for PACs compared to individual candidates. And I mean, it goes without saying that this PAC funding disproportionately comes from high wealth individuals, corporations that want to have an outsized influence on our elections. And they disproportionately spend it on PACs because there's not the limits that's on political candidates and parties, which are in place in states across the union. This is according to PBS. The 2024 presidential election was the second most expensive election. In total, $5.5 billion was spent by presidential candidates, and the total cost with congressional races, it jumped to $15.9 billion. It was a couple $1 billion less than the 2020 race. But nevertheless, overall, we still have been trending in a direction where generally, as time goes on, more and more money is spent on these elections, especially since Citizens United was overturned. And disproportionately, these are conservative voices being promoted by PACs. If you look at Open Secrets, this is numbers directly from their site, specifically just looking at political action committees, nothing else, from the last election cycle. And it shows the amount of money spent by these different aligned PACs, and that 65%, over 65% of money spent by PACs was from conservative PACs, over almost $1 billion more than liberal aligned candidates, and then some candidates who are some PACs that were maybe more independent or had just specific issue areas or nonpartisan. But this is just insane that conservative voices are really being benefited by this type of system right now. Yes, Democrats do also participate in this spending. Obviously, these numbers show that. But Elon Musk has no right to be claiming or yelling about Soros or all these other like billionaire Democrats funding when he's the biggest spender. And overall, the numbers don't lie. The facts don't lie. The facts don't care about your feelings, as many conservatives like to say. This is what the political reality is, and it's that disproportionately conservatives are being funded by these dark money groups. That's just what it is. And it's not just campaign finance where money in politics is running rampant and influencing our electoral process. It's also in other areas like stock trading and the issue of congressional stock trading. I mean, we all know that Pelosi has many accusations of insider trading, which, I mean, if you look at how well her portfolio does, it's I mean, you would have to almost be an idiot to not think that there's some level of insider trading or some sort of insider knowledge that's influencing that based on how well she performs in her stocks. But it's not just Nancy Pelosi. And here's a chart produced by an account, and I believe they are an organization that has a website called Unusual Whales, and they deal specifically with stocks and targeting, market manipulation, insider trading, etc. And they did a chart of percent change of congressional portfolios in 2024. And you see here a list of many congressional portfolios where they had massive returns, massive increases in their portfolios, which is way more than a typical investor or a typical American would get in returns for a year. Just highlighting the issues of this. I mean, it goes without saying that some of these members of Congress are quite literally using their office to have financial gain, and it doesn't matter what party you're a part of. This is horrendous, and it should be banned. It should be illegal. People should be going to jail, quite frankly, because that reduces public trust and faith in our elected officials and institutions, and it doesn't serve our interests. It doesn't serve any fundamental interests of government at all. In fact, it undermines it, and it is blatantly corruption and unfair no matter what party does it. And I also think it is unfair, though, for uh, certain parties to frame it as just an other party issue when both parties and members of both parties are engaging in it. Um, all members of Congress who engage in activities like this should be called out. I think that that's kind of where the majority of Americans, the vast majority of Americans, stand, and that's definitely where I stand on the issue. And I mean, it's easy to say that money in politics is bad. And I think most Americans intuitively kind of know that. But I did want to kind of do some research and see exactly what kind of academia or other research on the issue has to say about what exactly does this kind of outsized influence on democratic processes have on our democracy and on our systems of governance. And I came across this recent study, multinational study, I believe, from published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, which is a peer-reviewed journal of the National Academy of Sciences. And here's its abstract, uh, where it specifically talks about inequality, specifically economic inequality and democratic erosion, and it says that they're linked, and that even wealthy and long-standing democracies are vulnerable if they are highly unequal. Through national wealth, though national wealth might provide some resiliency. The association between inequality and risk of democratic backsliding is robust and holds under different measures and structures of both income inequality and wealth inequality. Uh, and then it continues. This is talking about wealth inequality specifically, and I'll go into another article in a minute that talks specifically about Citizens United and the effect of that. But too much money is antithetical to democracy. Too much money in the hands of few is not compatible with a democratic system of governance. I am not saying that people should not earn a lot of money, that people should not have the ability to, achieve the American dream, which I think has been undermined. I think we're at a moment where too many people have been greedy to where now it's undermining other people's chances of achieving the American dream. Um, if the American dream was ever real, which I think it was for at least at least a subset of people, I think it's increasingly not real for the majority of Americans or accessible for the majority of Americans. And I think it's this hoarding of wealth. And these individuals who have hoarded so much wealth will do anything to protect it. And that includes spending insane amounts of money in the political process to maintain their positions in society and to not share the wealth with anyone else. They would rather hoard it than share the wealth, which too much concentrated money in the hands of few, like I said earlier, it is just not compatible with the democratic system of governance, because the levels of wealth inequality that we see now are just insane. They are unhealthy, and they are directly threatening our democracy. They threaten our democracy because it allows individuals to have such an outsized say in elections over average citizens that it really dilutes the power of the citizens, which is at the foundation of our republic, our democratic republic. It also creates situations where corruption is easier, because people are better able to get away with it because they have so much wealth, so much power, and the ability to find ways to get away with it. Um, and it just corrupts the system as a whole, and it undermines trust in the system as a whole. And the level of wealth inequality that we see in this country, and this disproportionate amount of spending on elections, is frankly not sustainable in the long term. A democracy cannot survive under these current conditions over an extended period of time. Just to put it point blank, our democracy will not survive if we do not begin addressing this issue. I have no insight as to how long our democracy can survive under these current conditions, But all I know is that whether it's a decade from now or 50 years from now, if we don't change the current system and money in politics, our our democratic system of governance will cease to exist. It's again just antithetical to the entire idea of our republic, to the entire idea, all of the ideas that our founders put forth for this republic when they founded it. They did not have in mind kind of this level of wealth inequality, and this amount of power of individuals, um, to sway politics. I mean, I will say, obviously, back then when the country was founded, there was many different ideas on politics and democratic society. Obviously, a lot of people could not even vote. Our country was not very democratic at the moment, although it was one of the most democratic countries, if not the most democratic country in the world. But it wasn't very democratic to modern standards. But that's fine. I mean, society evolves, society progresses, we move forward, different ideas come forth, we expand on rights, we expand on these notions of what a society should look like what a fair and equal democratic society should look like. And we've decided, and I think rightly so and rationally so, that we need to expand rights to citizens and expand the democratic process and expand our republic into more of a democratic republic. And this just risks it all. And it's not the direction we should be going. It This direction is taking us back, not forward. And I think it's really robbing this nation of the American dream and the ability to progress on anything. And I think it's robbing us of our vision and our courage to act, because we all feel so numb and so neutered in the political process, as if we don't have a say or don't have power, because these individuals have so much power where so many have given up. And we need to regain that courage as a country. Um, and like I mentioned earlier, it's not just economic inequality itself that undermines democracy. It's also specifically things like Citizens United. Here's a study I found, um, where it studies specifically the effect of the Supreme Court's 2010 landmark decision in Citizens United. And it shows that results indicate that a ruling had a substantial negative effect on state democratic performance, and that is lowercase d. It is not talking about Democratic Party, it's talking about democracy. Um, the results suggest that unlimited political spending may pose a threat to the health of democracy in the United States. And again, just everything I was just saying. And this isn't a new notion that too much power concentrated in the hands of a few uh, is a threat to the democracy itself. I mean, even back to ancient Athens. I took a class here at Harvard freshman year. It was a seminar class, and it was on the ancient Athenian legal system. And in that class, our professor talked about the process of ostracizing individuals, where every year citizens would vote on whether they're going to ostracize someone and then who they're going to ostracize. And while sometimes it was abused, sometimes it was used as a mechanism to protect the republic, to protect democracy, where the citizens of Athens would vote to ostracize, and by ostracize, I mean banish people for 10 years from the country, to leave the country, to leave Athens for 10 years. And sometimes they were banished because they were gaining too much power. And in order to protect democracy and its institutions, they banished these people. I'm not saying that we should banish people today. I don't think that that really works with our current understanding of politics and how philosophy on politics has evolved, and public opinion on something like that. But it shows that sometimes drastic measures are needed to protect democracy and democratic institutions. And it also shows that, again, this is not something new. This is something that people back in ancient Athens knew. They needed to do this to protect their system. And we need to do the same. And we need to look at bold action to combat this issue. And I'll go into potential avenues we could go down later in the video. And like I was saying earlier, Republicans are the ones that benefit the most from this kind of unlimited spending by Citizens United. Democrats also do it, but I understand um, why both parties continue to do it to an extent. I mean, it would be political malpractice for one party to completely disarm and not engage in kind of taking money. Um, like, for example, if the Democratic Party decided to stop unilaterally accepting PAC money or any of that, which it wouldn't even be able to do exactly because PACs are independent. Um, it, it, I mean, it would allow the other side to completely dominate in terms of money and then advertisements and etc. and everything that comes with it. But typically, and this is part of the reasons why I am on the left, is, and this issue has been really warped with Trump and Musk recently, is Democrats have historically been on the better side of this issue. I mean, here's a headline from The Hill from a couple years ago, 2023. Democrats introduced constitutional amendment to reverse Citizens United. And here's something from Wiz Politics just a few days ago, that Democrats in Wisconsin state legislature announced introduction of constitutional amendment ballot measure to overturn Citizens United. It has typically been Democrats looking to solve this issue, but it should not be a partisan issue, and both parties should be condemned to an extent for not taking more action on this. It should not be a a partisan issue at all. It should be an American issue. It should be, are you on the side of democracy or not? Are you a patriot or not? Are you on the side of the republic or not? Are you on the side of upholding our constitutional order or not? This is an existential issue. And while the Democratic Party is better on this issue, and I stand by that, and I believe that firmly, and the evidence shows this, they still could be doing way more. And also, I think making this more of an issue in elections, which I will talk about more in a minute. So, what do we do next? What are potential solutions? Well, one, of course, is overturn Citizens United, and there's a couple ways where this could happen. One is obviously through constitutional amendment, which requires, I believe, 2/3 of the Congress and 3/4 of the state to ratify, which is an insanely high hurdle, which doesn't seem very politically feasible at the moment, unfortunately. Or the Supreme Court could overturn its previous ruling on the issue, which also at the moment doesn't seem very likely, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to do it. And especially Democrats shouldn't try to do it. You know, just because something's hard doesn't mean that we should abandon it and give up. I mean, consider the pro-life movement, which worked for how many, was it 50 years? Almost 50 years, if not more than 50 years, to overturn Roe v. Wade, even though for so much of that time they were against incredible political headwinds, yet they continued to make it a very politically salient issue throughout that entire time. I think this is an issue that Democrats could do the same. I think Democrats should really center anti-corruption, anti-money in politics in their platform. And not just aesthetically, not just saying it because it polls better. I mean actually really meaning it, really hammering on it, non-stop talking about it. Every election, talk about it. Every election, no matter where you are, local, state, federal, talk about it. Claim this issue and push it, because it should not be a partisan issue, and I think it's really something that should be focused on, because once you address money in politics, I feel like you can address so many other issues after it. I feel like money in politics, if you kind of solve it or make the situation better, you can address so many other issues that need to be addressed in this country that are being held back because of political interest, money to political interest holding back progress. And other things that you could do is ban congressional stock trading, increase the the time from being in public office to being allowed to lobby or ban it completely. I think you could tighten campaign finance laws, ban dark money, which is undisclosed donor funding political ads. Ban it, make them say who they are. I think you could also require real time disclosures of donations. I think you could also strengthen the Federal Election Commission, the FEC, by giving it more funding and also more statutory enforcement power. Um, I think there are a lot of avenues you could go down, and I think some states, including in cities or localities, have started to look at public funding of elections, like Seattle, for example, with I believe they're called democracy vouchers, has taken a stab at it. I think that that is something that we should definitely explore as a country, or at least on local and statewide levels. Um, but you really need that Citizens United overturned, and you need limits on the amount of money spent on our elections, and you need congressional stock trading banned, and we need all of these things as a country. I mean, our democracy is being corroded by now. This has a corrosive effect. The foundations of our country are starting to rot because of this. Money in politics is acidic, and it's really sad that it hasn't been more of a salient issue, and it hasn't been a bipartisan issue, because it should be. I think the vast majority of ordinary Americans, even very partisan Republicans, very partisan Democrats, agree on this issue. But it's a lot of elected officials who don't. And then elected officials on certain parties will rile up the base saying, oh, it's just Democrats that are doing it. Look at Democrats. Or vice versa, when it's both parties that are doing it. And we shouldn't even make it a partisan issue. Um, it just needs to be dealt with. I mean, everything I've said is pretty bleak. I'll admit it. I mean, there is some degree of hope. I mean, turning back to the recent Wisconsin Supreme Court race, uh, the Musk-backed candidate lost, despite him putting so much money in the race. And actually, there's a poll from a firm called Blueprint, which polled the effect of Musk's interference in the election after the election happened. And here it is. It asked if you were more or less likely to support the Musk-backed candidate um, after, Musk kind of intervened. All voters, 25% of voters were less likely to support the candidate, and it is even higher for independent voters, where there's a negative 29% delta. Sorry, I misspoke earlier. It's 30% less likely to support, 5% more likely to support. That is, net more likely to support is negative 25 for all voters, negative 29 for independent voters, showing that if this is a central issue, it can be an issue that sways people. So if we make this a top priority, a top message, I think we can really have some movement with voters in this country, and we can make some progress on this issue, because ultimately what matters most is not the benefit of the Democratic Party if they decide to take a stand on this issue, which I do think it would benefit them. Obviously, what matters most, and by far, is actually getting it implemented, and so ordinary citizens can take our country back, and so that we don't sell out America, quite literally. And I think the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, there is a little bit of a blueprint forward for Democrats on this issue, but again, it should not just be Democrats. We need help on this issue. Our republic really relies on it, and this is an issue that I feel very strongly about, and I really do believe that I'm not sugarcoating it or being actually the opposite. I'm definitely not sugarcoating it. Um, that I'm kind of overemphasizing the negative effects of this. I really think, if anything, I am sugarcoating it. I think it is just really hard to put into words the negative effects that this has on this country, and especially in the long term. And I think already we're seeing the effects on this. I mean, the state of our country, the state of our democracy, the state of our political affairs. I think it's no coincidence that this immense backsliding has begun to happen after Citizens United and after all this new money began to flood into our elections. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. And so I really hope that we can join together as patriots to fight this issue. And I would love to see if you have any other ideas to how to best combat this issue and make progress um, in the comments below. Also, please like, subscribe, and share this video, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it.